Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you so much to Emmanuel for agreeing to do this. I know it's a little awkward, but I appreciate him so much for sharing his ideas about the final project so that maybe you all can get a better sense of how to develop your final project topic. So, Emmanuel, tell us what your organization is that you're interested in, and tell us a little bit about why you're interested in it and what your thoughts are for the final paper before we do a little bit of question and response.
Yeah, hello everybody. For my project, my final paper, I decided to research on the Global Action to Prevent War. It's a organization from the United Nations to go around like globally, try to prevent any conflict or armed conflict, any discrimination that could lead to war, any conflict in general.
Great. How did you first learn about it?
I was doing research about a United Nations organization around the world, and I found it on the website. And I decided to do more research, and I found the social media and everything they were about.
Awesome. And do you have personal experience with anything that the organization deals with that makes you more interested or excited about it?
Well, not really, but in my country back then, there was a civil war, and I remember seeing United Nations blue helmets. Those are non-government organization
Yes.
that they dispatch soldiers in conflict, like in countries that have conflict, to kind of resolve the issues. And I
Yes.
remember seeing those, and I think those might be from the global action to prevent war. Maybe.
Great. Okay, I that's perfect. So it gives us a little background on what the organization does. They're trying to
Mhm.
prevent war. They're trying to help mediate and mitigate conflict in pretty. I mean, they're global, so it's any region in the world that's experiencing conflict, right? Okay,
Yes.
so you sent me, and I've looked at it, their social media presence. So they have a Facebook page, which we'll look at, and it ended basically being active in 2015. So it was active
Mhm.
until 2015, right?
Yes.
And then the other kind of resources that you sent, there was a blog. And that
Mhm.
blog has continued to be active up till now.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we're going to look at all of those resources and we're going to try to think what would be a good question to ask for a final paper that's going to
Mhm.
engage with some of the questions that our articles are asking. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look at um, just kind of the final paper topic sheet
Mhm.
um, and get an idea of how we're going to get started making this into a question. So, what what about this organization do you feel like you could write about for the final paper? So remember, we're trying to find a way to ask some of the same questions that the articles are asking, or maybe we're going to look at the way that social media helps influence the work that the organization is doing. So, what are
Mhm.
some of the questions that you found or that you want to ask about the organization?
Well, while doing research about the organization, I found out that they had a project, like a program going on in Rwanda, because in Rwanda there's been an ongoing war, civil war, and I learned that the global action was involved with that. So I thought I could make more research on that and write about it.
Okay. So basically, that this the global, what is it called? The global.
Global action to prevent war.
Right. And I've seen the acronym. Global Action to
Mhm.
Prevent War is doing a project in Rwanda right now. What project is that?
Well, this to be determined, but I know that there's civil war in Rwanda, and Mostly in Africa, there's a lot of war and another involved in there.
And so they are doing work in that country to sort of help mitigate these issues of war and try to bring some peace. Do you know how, and maybe you don't, and that's okay, how is social media playing a role in that project?
Well, since the global action is tied to the United Nations, I feel like their social media presence is not like as forward as, let's say, United Nations. I feel like they're under the United Nations. So yeah, I don't think their biggest means of sharing information is social media.
You do not think that their biggest means of sharing information is social media, or you do?
Yeah.
You don't.
I don't. Yes,
right.
Because they have very little interaction with the public.
Yes. Okay, so I love this already. We are getting some great information here. And what I found as I was looking through your documents was I was kind of looking at a narrative, so a story that's coming out of this organization. And for any of you who are also trying to understand how to write a paper for this class, you need to do exactly what Emmanuel has done. He's found an organization that he's interested in, and he's looked at what they're currently doing right now, and he's trying to find out how social media plays a role. And basically, you need to sort of write a thesis statement after you've done your research, and then you'll have to justify it, about if their social media involvement is effective, if they need to do something differently, or kind of understanding how it plays a role. So I'm going to show you guys some of what he sent me. So he sent me this blog. So a blog is really an older form of internet engagement, right? So blogs are something that people still use, but they were very, very popular in the 2010s. I don't know if you guys were too young to remember, but a blog, and if you look at this, okay, let's look at a little bit what it has. It has a lot of information about, but it does have a Twitter feed that's not for Global Action to Prevent War's Twitter, but for different information that's going on Twitter about the issues that they care about, right? So they are using social media here, but it's not them tweeting. Instead, they have an about section, and if you go down, they have a lot of information, a lot of different posts. These are very active, right? So let's look at some of their March stuff. So they have these really detailed posts about issues that are part of their mission. So it's about NGOs, it's about the United Nations, it's about urgency, it's about violence and trauma. This looks like a lot of information, right? Does this look like a simple story or a complex story?
In my opinion, this looks like a simple story.
You think this is a simple story?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it could be that there are some sort of simple things going on, but I might say that, like, this gets into some complex information the more you go on, if you actually read it and engage with it. They have one post from February. This looks like climate-related issues, so climate change and environmental issues. They have information in January, so they're talking about how to reconcile, and they're talking to experts. So to me, I see two things that are coming up that pertains to things that we've looked at. So remember, we go back to watch a 30-minute video, and they're talking about simple messages versus complex messages, right? They're also looking at how do we make sure that we look at big picture as well as the small picture. And so what I'm seeing, and also, do you remember the concept of drillability from the 30-minute video? A drillable message is one where if you look for more information, you can find a lot of good information about the organization and their issues. To me, this blog is an example of drillability. It shows that you can find, I mean, look at all this. You can find articles where they talk to professionals about these issues. To me, that's drillable. And to me, while I do think that I think you're right that just global action to prevent war, that's a very simple message, right? We don't want war and we want it to be global. So there's a simple message, but there's a lot of complexity to be found on this blog. And I think that's very interesting. However, could this be considered social media? What do you think?
Well, I don't think this is like, it's like academic articles that they post.
Yes.
Because they don't really offer a lot of response from other people, from the public.
Yes, I totally agree. So this blog, you can leave a comment, but it does not look like people are leaving comments. There's not a lot of interaction happening here. This looks like a place where you come and get information. However, you still have some engagement with social media, right? Because you have this kind of way to connect with social media, but they're not actively participating in it. And then I also want to show what Emmanuel sent. He showed us, here is their Facebook page, and it looks kind of, again, like their graphic design is not beautiful. It's not compelling. It's not shiny, right? It's not like awesome. It's focusing more on information. And this is the same thing for this. I mean, this is the United Nations, right? And they have their kind of symbol, but it's not very sleek. And exactly like he said, this is old. This is from 2015. And if you notice, I mean, how many people are following this? I'm not entirely sure because I haven't liked it. So how about I like it and I'll see if we can.
It says it right there.
Yeah, let's see. Right, so
1,000.
Right, so not that many people are following them, right? And like 12 people are engaging here.
They're not 2 likes.
Yes, not so many likes, not so many comments. Now, I want to point out one more thing. And this is something that he did not send me. And, he did not send me this, but I think it's important. I looked up just their just website. And 2020, they have a long letter, basically, from their management or their kind of organizational team. As we head into, they want to reflect on the work they've been doing. And it says, but also that it has taken longer to achieve peace and security objectives than we might have hoped. If you read this whole thing, it shows that they are having problems creating a lot of engagement. They are not doing as well as they would like to be doing. And he or she talks about the problems that they've been having. They have a lot of young people who have come to learn here and that they have accomplished a lot, but there is a lot of problems that are going on. And I think it's really important that he or she says, I'm not one to believe that nonprofits should continue to exist beyond their shelf life. So that to me sounds like they're thinking about closing their doors, right? Mm-hmm. So I think Emmanuel could write an incredible paper here because he sees that this is a place with a lot of good information, right? A lot of drillability, a lot of complex storytelling, but is the organization fulfilling their mission? Maybe not yet. You know what I mean? It shows almost the opposite of Invisible Children. Because Invisible Children had simple stories, lots and lots of social media engagement, And they also had problems creating their mission and accomplishing their goals. And here we have almost the exact opposite. We have low social media engagement. We have a lot of complex storytelling, but we also have the fact that they are struggling to create their mission. So, how do you feel like, and you might not know because we're just talking about it right now, but Emmanuel, what are some ideas about the kinds of questions now that you might ask? Or what might be some of your hypotheses or a hypothesis about what's going on with this organization and their relationship to social media?
So right now, I'm just thinking about what approach should the organization take to have a better engagement on social media that could help them achieve their goals towards preventing war.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So what approach should the organization take to have a better social media engagement in order to help them achieve their goals? I might say that another question to ask is, would the social media engagement be good enough to help them achieve their goals? So here is an incredible set of documents that Emmanuel has to work with. And it's almost exactly a mirror to the invisible children thing. And he has two good questions, he can ask more questions, right? And then it's Emmanuel's job to basically answer that question in a thesis statement, right? And so his response might be something like, this organization should do blank in order to take advantage of social media in order to reach their goals. Or he might say that using the history of IC and other social media activism instances, it seems like achieving activism goals in 2021, it's not so much that it's impossible, but it's going to be is really difficult and maybe requires something else. So, Emmanuel, you notice that this is part of the United Nations, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they need to partner with some other group. Or maybe you think they need to narrow their mission a little bit. Because you really liked this organization because of the war kind of message. But as we looked at it, we saw that they were also looking at environmental issues. They were also looking at, and you brought this up, they were looking at women's rights issues.
Sure.
Is their mission too big? Maybe they don't have a focused mission. So maybe another question you could ask is, in what way should GAWP narrow or change their mission and maybe use social media in order to achieve their goals or something like that? So how will you, and you don't have to answer perfectly, but at this point, we've talked a little bit, what will be your next step to start thinking about your final paper and how you will write it?
Well, I definitely I have to be looking into how social media impacts organizations like this and into achieving their goals. More specifically, like what about social media engagement helps an organization like this with their specific goals to achieve these goals?
Yes.
And like in the long run, what can the organization achieve?
Yes.
With the help of social media?
Yeah, totally. So maybe as you are looking at academic articles, you might want to look for an article that helps us understand what can we achieve with social media engagement for activism. And you might not find the perfect article, but maybe you find maybe you use the racialized slacktivism article that we're reading. because they say that it might not achieve racial justice, but it does achieve critiquing other people. So I don't know, and I'm not going to say that this is your answer, but you might say maybe the GAWP cannot achieve global peace, but maybe they can raise awareness or get people to start thinking more about the fact that war is not inevitable. We can stop war. Maybe they can use their social media piece to push a message of anti-war, but then continue to have that drillability in their website where you can still go and get lots of good information that's complex, but they need to start pushing some kind of message because their message seems, I don't know.
Very broad.
Yes, exactly. Very broad. So I love your instinct to go and ask the question, what can social media engagement actually achieve? That's a great question for you to ask. And then put that together with what you know about GAWP, and you've got an amazing paper right there. So there you go.
Yes, thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. Any final thoughts before I try to remember how to stop the video recording?
No, I actually think that this meeting very, very much helped me to find a focus point on which to talk about on my final essay.
That's great. So now you can also take pieces of each of those things and you will cite them in your paper. You can use quotes from the blog post. You can use quotes from their Facebook. You can use quotes and even screenshots from all of that in your paper. So you have a lot to work with. So I'm really excited about it and I can't wait to see what you do. All right, thanks. Okay, and now I really